Welcome to Something Special Designs by Tina Williams, where I create DIY home decor using mostly thrifted and upcycled items. Sit back and enjoy the video. And if you like it, please give me a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll know when I upload future videos. Hi everybody, this is Tina. Hope you're doing well. Make sure you stay till the end of the video. I've got exciting news and it's not my puppies. Hi everybody, this is Tina. So if you haven't noticed, you can get galvanized things really cheap, and you may have a bunch lying around at your house. So I thought we would just do this video. Actually, it's going to be a couple of videos. But anyway, I bought this at Hobby Lobby in the clearance aisle, and if you look, stores are just practically giving this stuff away. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace for super cheap. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these galvanized items and we are going to make them into something new. So I am going to be painting this wall pocket that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to be using crinoline from DIY Paints. And it does take a couple coats. And I did not prep this. I am painting directly onto the galvanized pocket. And I find that that chalk paint or even the clay paint, it just sticks real well. And today we're going to be doing things a little different. We're going to be doing kind of all the projects together instead of one at a time, just because for time's sake I did not have time to edit that way, and this is how I actually do it. So this is one of those planters that you get at the Dollar Tree, and I painted it with crinoline. And now I'm moving on to a wall pocket, another one that I got at Hobby Lobby for really cheap, really inexpensive. And like I said, look at different stores. They're all just practically giving this stuff away. And we are going to make some really fun things with these. And, you know, they're very sturdy, and it's a great base for you to make different projects on. And they won't look like galvanized anything when we get done with them. So anyway, this is going to also take 2 coats, and I didn't prep it. So if you want to, you could spray a primer on with it or put a primer on. I didn't do that, and I felt like it stuck really well, and I also seal it really well later. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing now is I am going to be using some air dry clay, and I'm using the olive crest mold, and I'm going to be taking several elements out of this. And the way I do my clay is I just press it in with my fingers, and I use this handy dandy tool that I got from one of my transfers. You could use a credit card, anything, to pull the extra clay off the top, plus it flattens it out. Sometimes I use just a little roller or whatever on it, but I find that this works really well and I get a really good impression. And I'm going to be using this little portion on the side, and later I use some other pieces of it, and I'm just basically going to do the same thing, and I get some really good impressions. And if it breaks, not a big deal, you can always put it back together. If you have not tried the IOD molds, they're just fantastic. I had tried to use air dry clay for years, and I quit because it was so hard. But these are so easy to use, and look how detailed they are. So I am going to be putting these on my first little wall pocket, and I'm going to be putting that design in the middle, I think, there, but then I changed my mind. Watch. So I'm going to be doing some more castings with the olive crest mold, and I will also be using a few other molds. But in order to get multiples, obviously you can only do one at a time. And I love working with the clay and the mold. It's really very relaxing for me. I could do this all night. The only, issue is you do have to wait overnight. At least I do before I really work with it. You can get a lot of it done and then just leave it overnight. But anyway, I'm going to be using this on our other wall pocket. So I'm using my Dainty Flourishes pieces in addition to the other ones, even though I kind of had an idea, but I kind of change my mind as I go. And I use a Type Bond Quick and Thick to apply these. And I make sure that I put it on the back of each piece and I go all the way to the ends, trying not to put too much. But if you put a little too much, not a big deal. You can just wipe it off, as you go. So I'm actually putting it on my piece first, and then I'm going to lay it on, and then I'm going to go ahead and then remove the extra glue when I get done, because I want to make sure I get all the little pieces down. Now I'm going to start working on my other little wall pocket. And again, this time I'm using the olive crust, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to put the pieces on there. And again, I kind of had an idea in my head, but you kind of change as you go. And that's what I end up with. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put it on that way. I think I figured out, I think that's the way I like it the best. So now I have my bird song mold out. It's just another one of my favorites. You guys are getting to see a lot of my favorites. I love birds, so it's one of the first ones that I purchased. And I have used this one quite a bit. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and cast the large swallow, and then 2 times, and then I'm going to be doing the small one 2 times. And go through the same process of just pushing the clay into the mold, scraping off the excess clay, and then releasing it. And of course I do put cornstarch on my molds to help with them releasing. And so I'm putting the birds on the portion of these planters. If you've seen the Dollar Tree ones, they have the raised lettering in that middle part. And what's going to happen is this is going to cover most of that up, and the little bit that's left will be disguised. You won't really even see it. So we're going to go ahead and put that basically covering most of that raised area. And then the little small ones we're going to put on the sides. And these are a little heavy, so you do have to kind of watch on these that they don't slide down. So I am also going to be putting some little feet on this, and I'm using super glue and E6000, and I bought these little feet on Amazon. I use them on a lot of different projects, and I thought they would be really cool on these. I'll let that dry for about an hour, and then now what I'm doing is I'm going over all of my castings on my different projects that we did with the crinoline, because I don't want these to crack, and I'm going to be leaving them overnight. This will be the last thing I do, and I'll leave them overnight. I use a soft bristle brush because you have to remember your castings are very soft at this point, and you don't want to distort them. And I will do that on all 3 pieces. So here is another planter that I purchased from Hobby Lobby on clearance. And I just got these a week ago, guys, so maybe there's some in your area and you can get yourself some. And I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Farmhouse Green, which I know you're probably thinking, oh, I don't know if I like that. But this is a great green when you're wanting to make vintage looking projects. It has that old kind of color that you see in wallpaper, especially when you distress it. Just wait until we're done. You will be surprised how much you're going to like this green. So of course I'm going to be painting it, and it's going to take 2 coats of this, and I did not prep it. And now I have yet another planter that I got from Hobby Lobby, and again we're going to be painting it, and I'm going to be doing 2 coats with that, with the Farmhouse Green. So you can see why I grouped these little projects together. I thought you wouldn't mind me doing these this way since they're so similar. You could probably follow along pretty well with that. And really this color, I know, it grows on you once you work with it. It really does. Okay, so now we are going to be using some castings from Dewdrop, another IOD mold, and I didn't think you needed to see me do those. But anyway, I have done some pieces from it, and I'm going to be gluing those on the front of that one. And now what you see me doing is I am putting some pieces from the sunflower mold, the IOD mold, on our other little wall pocket. Again, I didn't think you needed to see me do that because you kind of got the idea of what we're doing. And this one's kind of big, and I had an issue with this because it slid down a little bit. And I also used the Trimmings 1 mold on this. You'll see me do that here. I wanted to put, it looked kind of like a little lopsided when I got done. I hadn't planned on doing this, but that little collar part right there around the top, you'll see me put it on. It just seemed like it needed something. It's a little bottom heavy. So what I did wrong with this is I set it upright and the sunflower slid, and so I had to reposition it later. So really you need it to lie flat. So now I'm going to just go over this with my Dixie Belle paint again, with my farmhouse green. And again, I'm using a soft bristle brush, and I'm going to let that sit overnight before I go on to the next parts of this, because you really don't want to work with these when they're wet if you can help it. It doesn't usually end well when you do that. Usually when it's smushing them, and it's just easier to just let it sit overnight. And when you paint them, it does help with the cracking. It won't eliminate it, but it does help a little bit. So I'm going to do that again on my sunflower mold the same. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I paint this whole thing as well and let it sit overnight. And I did have to reposition everything because that sunflower just slid down. If they're heavy, you've got to worry about that. So now that I've set those aside, this is the next day, and I'm going in with my wall pockets that I started out with before, and I am mixing my DIY crinoline with a little bit of salt wash, because I did have a little bit of cracking, and what that's going to do is it'll fill in that cracking. And also what I do with that salt wash is I go around my castings. There's always a little bit of gapping, a little bit of lifting. As the air dry clay dries, it will lift a little, even if you've glued it down really well. It happens. And I'm not going over the casting because I don't want to lose that definition. I'm just going on the sides with a little bit of a smaller brush and pushing that salt wash in there to get rid of that gap, so it looks like that the casting is part of the piece. It's not just stuck on there or glued on there. And I also usually always take a little bit of that salt wash. I will water it down a little bit so it's not quite as thick, and go over the entire piece, because I always love that texture when I'm going to be doing distressing later, because then it kind of hangs on to that salt wash. It will anyway with the clay paint or with a chalk paint, but it just gives it a little extra tooth for it to hang on to. So I'm also doing this with the Dollar Tree one, and again there was some cracking, even though we did put the paint on and let it sit overnight, but your clay will sometimes crack, and now I don't mind the little bit of cracking. We're going to be distressing all of these pieces, and I do think it makes it look more distressed, but you know, and even it doesn't fill them in perfectly. If you wanted to, you could take some clay and fill in those pieces and then smooth it down with a little bit of water if you want it perfect. But I don't mind a little bit of the cracking, and I will go over the entire piece and make sure that I get any gaps. And the one thing on this that I'm doing a little bit differently is, if you can see right there, I am stippling and putting on that salt wash pretty thick in that area, and that's where the other raised lettering is, and that is going to further disguise that lettering, so you will not even see it when we're done with this piece. It'll be totally disguised. And so grab those Dollar Tree tins, and you can make them into something really nice. So I'm doing the same thing with this as we did with the other ones. I'm going in there with the salt wash, and then I will go over lightly the entire whole piece when I'm done and give it just a little bit of texture, and you know, just to kind of I don't know, make the piece maybe look like it's a clay or a pottery piece when it's done. So basically I just make sure I fill in all the little gaps everywhere and let these dry, and I will spray all of these when I get done with, I'm going to use some polyacrylic, and I'm going to be spraying all of these with the sealer so that we can go on to the next step with all of this. So now I'm going on to my other green pieces, and I'm mixing up some salt wash, and I'm definitely going to be doing that, basically the same thing. And because the sunflower slid down, it had a lot of cracking everywhere, but we're gonna fix all that. I'm gonna leave some in because the way that this piece is gonna be finished is very distressed, but we're gonna definitely be using the salt wash. You can see I'm just really shoving it in there. I kind of skipped over this part because it's the same as the other, but I wanted you to see how I fixed this, because the entire sunflower fell off and I had to put it back together, and so we had quite a bit of cracking, and that's really only because I had it trying to sit it up rather than having the piece laying down. I don't know what I was thinking. I just wasn't thinking, but what's really good is that it's all fixable. And now I'm going to go in on this piece, and again I had some cracking, and I'm going to go ahead and fix that, and I'm also going in and filling in all the gaps, and I will go over the whole piece again with a little bit of salt wash just to kind of give it some texture, and these will all sit and get dry. And again I will go ahead and put some polyacrylic on this and let those dry. So now I've got my wall pocket, and it's dry. I put the polyacrylic on it, and I sprayed it on, but I'm just showing you I had some, you know, liquid. And now I'm going to be using some transfers from IOD. And what I'm using is the brocante transfer, and I'm cutting it down to fit on that back portion. And I really don't have to trim very much. And I actually, the little wording that was on the side there, I'm going to put it on the actual label portion. I have no idea what it says. It's in French, but I thought that would be kind of cool to put that on the front. And I just basically, you know, rub that on the little label portion of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rub on the actual other portion of the transfer, and I've kind of positioned it, and this is done. I didn't think you needed to watch me rub that on. You basically rub it on until it releases and take it off, and that's how it looks. I think it looks great. So now that I've done that, I am taking Dixie Belle Grunge Gray Wax, which I absolutely love, and I'm going to go over all of my castings. Now remember, I left these overnight, so they're hard, and I can definitely you know, really work that wax in. I don't have to worry about distorting my molds, and I'm going to get it all in all those little crevices and everywhere. And I don't really go over the whole piece because when I move that wax around, it's going to go over all of it. I will a little bit, but not that much. I basically concern myself with the castings, And I'm actually using a stencil brush to do this, to get in there. I really like using that. It gets in there good. And then I just wipe off most of it. And it gives it a really, really, I think, a great look. It's perfect. It goes really well with the, I think, the transfer. Grunge gray is not like a really cold gray. It almost has a brownish tint to it. So I just love the grunge gray. And also this wax will seal the transfer in. And of course I do that all over the whole piece where the transfer is in the back also. And I'm just taking a rag and going in there and getting in all the places that I want to wipe some of the wax back. And because I sealed it, it allows me to do that and wipe off as much as I need to. So now I'm on to my other big wall pocket, the green one, and I'm going to be adding a transfer to that from the brocante. And I'm putting a flower in there and 2 butterflies. And that is basically going to be all the transfers that I use for these projects. So I wanted to kind of get those out of the way. And I really love how these look on there. So now I'm just putting some wording from the brocante transfer onto my little wall pocket. And it's just, I really have no idea what it says. It's in French, so I can't really read it. But anyway, I'm going to put that on the front of that. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with the grunge gray. I think it looks really good with this color with the crinoline. I think the combination, just, I don't know, it has a very pottery French look to it when it's done. It all off practically, and I'm going over the whole piece, and of course the wax is going to seal in the transfer. But I don't know, I just really like how this grunge gray looks with that color. So now I'm going to be using some Paint Couture Van Dyke Brown. It's an antiquing glaze, and I'm going to be going over our green piece with that. And I love this stuff. It is, I don't know, I mean, I like using waxes and everything, but this antiquing glaze works so well and it moves so well on your piece. Now again, I did spray this with a sealer before I did this so that I can wipe off a lot of this. The rule of thumb is if you don't seal your clay paint or your chalk paint, it'll absorb whatever you're putting on there a lot more. So you may want that, but I like to be able to wipe back quite a bit. And I know right now you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what you're doing, but it turns out great in the end. So anyway, I go over my castings and then I rub off a good portion of what I put on. And of course I go ahead and go over the entire piece also. And this is also a sealer as well. So it's sealing the piece, and I use a wet wipe if there's, spots that I have too much on and that I want to take off. And I also make sure I go in there and get the entire piece so that it all looks like, cohesive. And I even make sure I do the top and the back and go inside. Now, I did not paint this all the way inside in case somebody wanted to use it, I personally wouldn't put anything with water in it, but, So now I'm using that same Van Dyke Brown Paint Couture antiquing glaze on our tin that we got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go over all of my castings first. That's just kind of how I do it, just because you usually wipe off enough from the castings that you can use that whatever you have on your rag just to kind of spread it around the rest of the piece. So there's no reason to kind of go over the whole thing. You use a little bit less product that way, and also you're leaving those pieces on your you're leaving it on the castings a little bit longer, you know. And I'll go around the edges of where the casting is and stuff. I mean, I'm not trying to get there exact, but and the cool thing about this glaze is it really gets in all of those crevices and things very, very well. So it really does highlight your piece when you're looking for that vintage kind of look. So now I'm using the vintage texture stamp, and I love using this stamp to make things look kind of vintage. So you go around the edges. There's one that kind of makes it look like chippy paint, which is the one I'm using. And I'm using archival ink. You need to use like a permanent ink. And this is a black color. It's called Black Soot. It's not like real strong black, but if at any point you put it on and you think it's too much, you can just take a wipe and wipe it down, which is what you see me doing. And I'm also using the crackle portion. It's the vintage texture has like 4 stamps that you get with it, and I'm telling you that's one of my all-time favorite, that and the crockery stamp. And I'm going to go around and do this all over just to give it a little bit more of a vintage look. And this really does add to the whole texture of it, make it look vintage. So now I'm going to be using some rust effects, and this is from Finnabar, and it's called Rust Effect Paste, and there's 3 different colors. There's a brown, and then there's a kind of a mustard yellow, and then an orange, and those are kind of the colors that you would see in rust. And they have a texture. It's a very grainy texture that rust would have. So it has a very realistic effect to it. Now I've known people that use just paint and they add cinnamon, or they just add a little salt and they get a similar effect with that. But this is a really fun thing to have in your arsenal, and it works really well. And you just basically put it wherever you would want rust. And I tend to try and blend the colors together because I think that's how rust would look. So I'm going to put this on different parts of this piece wherever I want rust. And later I go in and I add some on the base of the piece, and then I think it's too much and I go in and I add some more green paint to it. But you just kind of play around and get it to how you want it and what you think looks good. So now I am on to my other green piece, and I am taking some of that archival ink, and I am going to just put this around the edges. I'm trying to add a little bit of a vintage look to this also. And I'm going to be using my vintage texture stamp here also, different ones, just to give it kind of a chippy paint look around the edges. And then if I put it on too strong, I wipe it back some. And you just kind of have to play with it and, get it to the distressing level that you're comfortable with. You may not be comfortable with distressing it at all. It's up to you. That's the fun part of it. You get to make it your own. So everybody, the exciting news is that I finally got a booth, and it's in the Painted Tree in North Richland Hills. I have been on waiting list all over town, and they accepted me. These are not my booths. These are just ones I've been looking at. So I am going to be starting a whole series on getting that all together, so I hope you guys stay tuned and watch that. So anyway, here are our finished projects. And I thought they turned out really good. I love how they look. They don't look like galvanized tin anymore. So make sure you go and grab those tins up from everywhere that's got them on clearance, Facebook Marketplace, thrift stores, garage sales, because they can make some absolutely beautiful projects. So anyway, that's it, guys, and that's my exciting news, and there will be more to come about all of that. So thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate you. All of this would not be possible without you. Thank you for supporting my brand new little channel. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It really helps out my brand new little channel. It lets YouTube know that you like me. It lets me know that you like me. It lets me know that you like the content. And it lets YouTube know what kind of content you like. So if you can please just comment, like, subscribe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And like I said, I'll be letting you know more about what's going on with the whole booth thing. And getting ready and setting it up, and it's exciting, exhilarating, scary, and anyway, stay tuned for all of that, and you guys take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.